Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Pure Joy Podcast, and welcome to YouTube listeners, or if you're listening anywhere else. I'm Elena Love, and I'm the host of the Pure Joy Podcast, and I'm here today with Shanti O'Connor. And Shanti is a good friend, and she's also a hypnotherapist with Quantum Healing Hypnotherapy. I've taken the training, and it's amazing. And so Shanti and I today are going to talk a little bit about, some of the things she's experienced through hypnotherapy and what it's all about. And anything else you want to say? I know you've been fully trained as a therapist.
I guess my background is initially counseling, therapy. Mm-hmm. And when I went down that road, I found that it was pretty limited. And I decided to find other techniques that were more addressing the whole person.
Right.
And that's when I found quantum healing hypnosis, maybe about 8 years ago.
Yeah, and so I've been trained in it, and I also went to you as a client.
Yeah.
And Dolores Cannon, I just love her. She's written it for, if you don't know, she's written tons of books on the experiences she's had with all kinds of crazy, ETs and information coming in through people as they've been hypnotized. And I know you've had so much experience with that, but what's the reason most people usually come to you for a hypnosis session?
It's interesting because I actually get a lot of people who come to me that are just curious, that really don't know much about hypnosis. What they know about hypnosis is the traditional techniques that we see on TV where someone goes under and they're doing some really wild, insane things that they don't remember.
Yeah. And
there's something within most of the people that come to me wondering, what is hypnosis and how can this help me? Mm-hmm. So that's one of the big reasons. And then another big reason people are drawn is there's something that they're just stuck on, that they can't figure out, that's really impacting them, or that they want to have a better understanding of. And a lot of it's rooted in something in the now happening. So it's interesting because not everyone that comes to me even knows about Dolores Cannon's work.
Yeah, of course.
They just find me through because I do a lot of different other things. They kind of go on my website and they're like, ooh, that looks interesting. And so it's
just to kind of basically just getting deeper into their psyche or into what's blocking them in life. Sounds like.
Yeah.
Could it be, I know the first time I ever went to hypnotherapy, it was actually someone here in Bend that I just wanted to kind of, my parents were both still alive at the time, and I just wanted to clear that energy with my mother and with my dad, and with I went just kind of, and I think the biggest intention was I was eating a lot at night when I wasn't hungry, and I was I just want to, I know this have nothing to do with hunger, nothing to do with nutrition, and I just was what is this in me that wants to eat at night? So I went to kind of get to the bottom of it, and I'm not sure I fully did with that treatment, with that therapy. And that therapy had a lot of merit and a lot of benefits. I think I did 4 sessions. But when I went to you, and it was funny because we were in the car one day and I started just going off about Dolores Cannon and the hypnotherapy and just the information because it was really intriguing to me.
Yeah.
And just kind of to give a little background on that because I think it might be interesting to people.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I've read, so Dolores Cannon has about 5 books, and they're called the Convoluted Universe.
Mm-hmm. The series. Yep.
Yes. And so if you're someone who's just fascinated by otherworldly things, off-planet things, aliens, but not aliens and ships flying around, but basically information, the Akashic records, information that's not really available to us as normal humans. Usually psychics are able to tap into this energy. If you meditate long enough, you're able to start seeing through the veil a little bit. But what I've experienced through Dolores' book and through working with you is that when you're under hypnosis, your conscious mind gets out of the way, so your subconscious can start telling you things that are kind of from totally different realms, and they're not of the normal everyday plodding along human experience. And that's the stuff that fascinates me to no end because I know there's so much depth and so much healing and information in that we could never access just with our normal minds, with our conscious mind. Tell me if this is true. Does it protect us from all of that?
Yeah, I think first of all, we're only using such a small percentage of our actual brain power mind, right? Yeah. And we are filtering information constantly through our own wounding, first of all, and our own experiences in life. And so, yes, our subconscious is sort of blocking us because we're not kind of ready for certain experiences or information. And our just conscious psyche is also really sort of narrowly focused on different ways of receiving information, being in the world, and understanding the world. So I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. And I mean, I also know that, so like a lot of people, like, you know, when we're born, we don't remember everything from past lives. And I think it's really protecting us, because if we were remembering being burned at the stake, or like all these different things that may have happened to us, whether or not you believe in reincarnation, but I do, how would you function in this world? And I've actually seen a movie recently where this kid was remembering being killed as a pilot, and he was obsessed with it, and he was afraid of airplanes, and you know, so like, I get why that protects us, but then I feel like when we're ready, we just feel drawn, and so much of it is like there's no mistakes and there's no accidents. So that day, we're driving for 4 hours in the car, and we start talking about it, and then I'm like, I need to do a session with you, and it just all unfolded so beautifully and perfectly. And so like, what attracted you to start doing this with people?
Well, throughout my life, I've had profound mystical experiences. I was the child that knew things, saw things, experienced things that normal or people in my environment weren't. Luckily, I have a father that's highly, highly psychic, and also a really powerful energy healer. And so he was a trusted adult. I could say, hey, look, I saw this, I experienced this, and we would talk about it. So in a way, he helped normalize a lot of my experiences. And then throughout my adult life, I continued to have like, what is this about? And so I think in general, I've always been a seeker. It set me on this road of wanting to understand other parts of reality that aren't necessarily available in the mainstream world. And then I had children. And you were talking about, you know, being born and not necessarily remembering anything, but I had children born fully aware of their lives. And my son would tell me like lives that we had together, and he would tell me lives that he's had fully awake in terms of in that realm, and my daughter as well. And so, and then part of becoming a mother, I got to really see the parts of myself that were still really wounded from my childhood. That needed to be looked at and to be worked with. And I, you know, being a therapist, I had already done lots of therapy. I also went back to therapy after I had children to try that. And I just felt like it was roadblock after roadblock. And so it sent me on this path of working with, I should say, I'm not someone who typically works with many people. I'm very discerning and
I mean, like you as a client, as a patient.
As a patient, I don't go to many people to work with. But I was in such a state of fight and flight during that time of a new mom that I started exploring different modalities and working with people. And I found some shamanic healers that completely changed my life. And it set me on this course of like, what are some other ways that are just as powerful as traditional therapy, that are available, that I can learn, that can have profound change and impact on people. And it was around 2010, I found Dolores Cannon's work, and everything I was reading, it was just, it resonated. Majority of it. I was like, wow, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yes, yes, yes. And so I started to look into it, and I felt like it would be a good tool as a clinician to have this technique, and I think they go hand in hand. And what I love about Dolores and the work of the QHHT is that, you know, in therapy, you're hoping to see a client about 10 times. Mm-hmm. You know, you're developing this relationship, and in some ways, the client is relying on you to help them. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think there's a time and place for that, but I also think there comes a time when we're sort of ready to take more ownership of our healing and to do more of the work on our own. And what I love about Dolores's work is, you know, I see hypnotherapy clients once, maybe twice. I don't see them very often because when they come in and they have a session, it is so profound and impactful. their life literally takes a split, and they're on a whole different path that they are ready to like step into with power and grace and wisdom that they never had before. And for me, like, that's the most powerful way I can empower a client.
And exactly. I mean, and I would love to talk about my session, because I think it'll give, like, because we're kind of just talking like around it.
Yeah.
Because I think like what you're saying is, I heard it coming from myself. Like, I was telling myself these things. And some people could say you're making it up, but there's no way these images and visions would come to me, and they never have before in any other way. And things I knew that I looked up later, and I'm like, that's what I saw that someone has already put on the internet, but I never looked that up before. And so it was just kind of like this my higher self telling me these things that I'm ready to hear. And I know that, like, part of what you do in this type of hypnotherapy is you go into a past life, if that's what the client needs to see, and there's some kind of healing from one of their lives. It's just like a little snapshot of what they maybe are holding on to in this lifetime. And then a lot of times they'll kind of progress into like a higher realm from there, and maybe even some well, you could explain it better, but like some other being is talking through them, like it kind of almost like in a channeling kind of way, but with information that's for the person, for the client, even if it's not actually them. And I kind of believe it's just part of our higher selves, or part of our, you know, whatever, our guides and the system that's around us already, but they're just being asked to speak through us. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's true. And something to add, a couple things that I was thinking about. So Dolores Cannon, she spent 45 years doing hypnotherapy, and she really fine-tuned this technique out of 45 years of experience. And a lot of the wording behind, you know, helping a client get to the point where they can access this higher information, it's really open-ended. It's not specifically like we're saying now you're going to go to a past life. You know, we're helping get a client get to a place where they can come to some sort of information that they need. And so really, more and more, it's not even going to a past life. We are going to like their essence. We're going to like where they really actually came from and what they're really here to do. You know, sometimes we go to a past life, but I find even, like, I just did a hypnotherapy session the other day and on Friday, and she started in a past life and then she jumped to where her soul origin was from.
Yeah.
You know, and so it just, I love it because you never know what's gonna arrive.
Yeah.
And the goal necessarily isn't a past life, but to find the most powerful information that person needs in that moment.
Yeah, and it might, like for me, I didn't even experience a past life because I have in other hypnotherapy in the past. But a couple more questions before we get into actual stories. One is I've got to quickly plug my computer in because I realized I didn't do that. And you can just answer. I'll just ask you from here.
Okay.
Is everyone able to be hypnotized? Like if you're a skeptic versus someone who goes in thinking, I'm ready for this. Like, does that make sense to you? Like, do you have some people that are not able to be hypnotized? Because some people say, I've never been able to be hypnotized.
Yeah, I think first of all, when I'm working with a client, I help them to understand sort of like what hypnotized means in this sense, because we all have a belief around or an idea of what that means. And I think everyone thinks that, you know, you go under and you don't remember anything, and you're just sort of talking.
Or you walk like a duck or whatever.
Yeah. And what I find is probably 99% of people can go under. I've only had one client that I wasn't able to put under, and she was my friend, and I think she just couldn't take me serious, so I was whatever. And then I had a couple other people that I felt like they weren't ready, because, you know, when you're under, a big part of helping relax your body and get to a point where you can access these other brainwave states is your breathing. And so I've had some really heavy smokers come in. And I said, you know, I just didn't feel like I could tell how they were breathing, the constriction. I want them to have a positive experience. And then someone else where there was just a lot of other stuff going on, and it just didn't feel like the right. So yeah, for sure, most people can go under, but most people remember majority of the session.
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because time sort of takes on a different speed when you go under, and people come out and they're like, oh, I thought that was like 10 or 15 minutes, and it's been an hour or over an hour, and it just, so that's the part that consistently happens. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like a dream state.
It's the dream state.
Is it gamma waves? Because there's theta, and then below that is gamma, right?
Yeah, but
it's not sleep.
Specifically, what she calls it is, and I've never done my research, so I don't know. But she calls it the
somnambulant.
Nebulistic.
Yeah, nebulistic.
Listic, I think.
Yeah.
And so that's the state where you're in just before you wake up and just right after you fall asleep.
Yes.
And it's interesting because that's when you have a lot of the pictures and a lot of like random things start happening in those moments.
Mm-hmm. And it's basically like, the way I think of it is like, say you just fell asleep or you're right in that dream state. Because all my dreams flood into my brain right before I wake up. Like, even if I've been dreaming them for 8 hours. And I feel like if there was someone like Shanti sitting next to me while I'm dreaming, kind of like asking me questions to actually get me to dream the things that are going to give me the messages. So like, just to take the woo out of it, basically, it's basically like almost like a dream guide in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like the dream, because if you think about dreams, the subconscious speaks to us through symbols and through archetypal images, and so when you go into hypnotherapy, the same thing sort of happens, and only you can understand what those archetypes mean, what those symbols mean, because they're very specific to your intelligence and your understanding.
Right, because it's like your higher self telling you the things that it knows you're going to know, versus like someone in India is going to get completely different symbols.
And she calls it subconscious, where I do think of it more as the higher self is speaking through us, because, you know, in traditional psychology, subconscious means something very different than what she's terming it.
I don't really like that word as much, but I know that it's not our conscious mind thinking. That's the one thing I do know.
Right, yeah. So the subconscious, the higher self, really is present in that space, and a lot of information comes through, very, very specific information. Like people will come in with questions like, hey, am I going to have another baby? Or what is my purpose? Or, you know, very specific. And it will come in that session. And those...
I love that.
And what you said earlier, it's you answering it. So it's not like you're coming to a psychic and
they're telling you.
You are, not only are you seeing it, you are feeling it, and you are knowing it with such clarity that it feels like you just know. Yeah. Right? And so that sort of like trifecta of things that are happening really help to sort of anchor that.
It's so true. And that's why it was so profound for me. I mean, and I would love to talk about the experience I had. But before we do that, do you have like anything, you don't have to, obviously you can be vague about it, but any clients, like you said, that their life trajectory changed, like anybody that's come in, like maybe you can give a little bit of their story without breaking any client privilege?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we know a lot of similar people.
You don't have to say any names.
But I also work with a lot of people you don't know. But so I had a woman who these are the people I love the most, I should say. The people that are just starting to awaken to other possibilities. They haven't necessarily done all the research. They're not necessarily like in a dogma of some sort, a spiritual dogma. They're more like, I'm curious, I don't know. And so I had this woman who was having sort of just a hard time. Like, she was just struggling, things weren't going right, and she did feel like she didn't have a whole lot of purpose, and she came into the session and she didn't know what this was. She kind of knew about hypnotherapy. She found me through my website. She just liked what she read about me and whatever, and so she was just drawn to work with me. So I suggested, let's try this. Let's see. And in the session, she found out where her soul originated from. Yeah. She found out her soul purpose in a very, very specific way, in terms of like, you know, she's here to do the X, Y, and Z, like these very specific things. And she woke up from that and she changed her job, she changed her relationships. She had a whole different zest and vibrancy for life. She felt more like settled and confident within herself. I mean, just like she started doing yoga and like all of these things that I think she was maybe wanting to do but didn't feel. But having the clarity of like how magnificent she is, which everybody comes in and you get to really experience how beautiful and special you are, because we all are, right? But to actually see it and feel it and know it with such truth. And so, yeah, and it took her a while to really absorb what she received.
Right. It does take time.
It takes time.
And I'm still integrating it. It's been June. You did it June, and now it's January.
Yeah.
So I think like a year integration at least. 6
Yeah.
months to a year.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why you don't work with people all the time, because there needs to be that time of integration and allow that to sort of seep in so you can embody what you just learned.
You know, my friend and I were just talking about this, about integration, because I think so one thing I want to say is I am not really a big person to do a lot of like medicine work, which is ayahuasca and all the like taking something externally. Because I feel like I have this knowing within me that we all do that we can access, but sometimes we just don't know how to access it.
Yeah.
So instead of taking a drug and vomiting all night and like getting hallucinations that you don't really know what they're really about because it's kind of vague, this feels like for me anyway, such a better, more pure, clean path. I'm just saying for me, I'm not judging other ways of doing things because I know some people really benefit from ayahuasca. However, this to me just seems like it's more straight and clear, and the integration seems easier because, like, I could talk to you a little bit about it afterwards and ongoingly. And like I said, I knew it came from me. It wasn't like, oh, Mother Ayahuasca told me this, or this mushroom medicine told me this. Like, which I have done. I've experienced both, and like I know what those are. And this to me, like, I guess I am more like want to be pure in my body, and like this is just such a beautiful way of experiencing it.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of like speak to what you're talking about, because I've had many experiences in that realm too, and I feel like they're good initial things to go towards. Like, it makes sense that a lot of like teenagers or young adults, we don't have initiations, right? We don't have these rites of passage initiations. So we sort of, like myself, I went towards these LSD or mushrooms, and it was my way of initiating myself into the world, right? And to initiate this awakening that I was ready for. And so I think for some, that's a good way to sort of awaken their consciousness in different ways. But you definitely have to be careful because, whatever, even if it's medicine, they have an impact on the chemicals in your brain, the hormones in your body, right? Any sort of substance that you're putting into your body impacts the chemistry of your body.
Yeah.
And so there could be, and I noticed this because we have so many mutual friends that like to do these things that it can become, you can be drawn to it more than maybe needed to.
You want that next fix,
you want
that next high, that next
high, yeah.
But also the next, oh, I got a vision. This is like, ayahuasca's not fun. It's not something I'm like, let's party. And like you're vomiting, it's a hard night, but you get these visions and you feel like you got downloads and stuff, which I'm not poo-pooing at all, but to me, those were always like mystery. Like, I don't know really what that's supposed to mean. Other than I only got really ever one super clear, pure vision that I knew what it meant. Yeah. And this just feels, and then and the other thing is, it almost made me want to cry when you said we have to initiate ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, where's the companion? Where's the person to help you like unpack it? Like, how sad that our culture is this way that we're not even like in a tribe with an elder to show us the way. Yeah. And we're all flailing out there just trying to find
we push our elders
answers.
In family homes.
Well, we don't know how to...
they're not integrated into the wisdom, into the network of our community where they're helping to initiate the young. We're saying, you're no longer relevant. You don't have enough information anymore. You're old, so we put them in homes.
And I also feel like, unfortunately, the elders in the Western culture, like I can use my parents and grandparents as an example, I didn't feel like they really had any wisdom to share with me.
Yeah.
there was so much judgment and so much fear because that's the way we've been brought up, and bless their souls. But they weren't coming from a place of like, I'm going to imbue my knowledge to you. It was more like, be careful of this and don't do this. And it was more all fear-based, not love-based.
Yeah, and so I'm going to get into my therapist's mind. I think that there's a lot of unresolved trauma that many, many people have. And this impacts our maturation. It impacts our brain development. And I think collectively as a culture, we're kind of stuck in the teenage years. And we also know that when you start abusing any sort of substance, whether it's alcohol, marijuana, or, as a teenager in the young years, it's kind of stops your development.
Yeah, psychic development.
And your psychic, your spiritual, stops a lot of developments.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of our generations before us had a lot of ancestral, collective, personal trauma that they didn't even know about, that was unresolved. And so they never got to really access, their inner truth, their inner self in a way that they can help others do the same.
Right.
And so I agree that it's rare to find older, wise teachers that, can really help the youth.
Yeah.
But I think we're moving towards that for sure.
Yeah, and I know some people do. I mean, I'm not someone who is drawn to organized religion, but I know some people do feel like they find their elders and their guides through organized religion. It does work for some people. They feel like there's someone guiding them that has done more study. So there's a lot of different paths, and I'm not saying there's ever one right way, but I know for a lot of my listeners and like us in the community that we're in, we're all kind of in this same place of like looking for more, more connection. A connection, I guess, is the right word. Like wanting to feel that true, like solid connection within us.
Yes. And to sort of circle back a little bit, I do think this technique is a step on the road to that.
Mm-hmm.
It is great to get to the point where you no longer need external substances to gain higher wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great when you no longer need another person, whether it's a guide, a mentor, a psychic, or whatever,
a clergy member or whatever.
Right, to impart that wisdom within yourself. This is a great step where you start learning that you can actually pull that information.
That's it. And then that's
yourself.
when you know it's truth.
Yeah.
And I've been noticing this lately, especially in the last year since COVID hit, that my truth has become more online. And when I'll say something out loud to someone and my higher self wants me to know it's truth, I get really intense chill bumps. And I call it like a chillgasm because my whole body goes into the chills. And that's just kind of like a thing we're all seeking, is what is the truth. And I think in 2020, and we're in 2021 now, but more than ever, people are like, what is the truth? And we're all searching for what really is true, because there's so many different narratives happening out there right now. So to me, this is yes, I can tell myself what's true from a place that's not in the programmed mind, but beyond that. And I guess that's starting to sound a little woo-woo, but that's what I basically have experienced.
So I've been thinking about this a lot in terms of gene keys.
Mm-hmm.
And gene keys is sort of the astrological I Ching. And you can put in your birthday and you can get all these different keys that relate to your personality, your wounding, your love, your intimacy, it's really great. One of the keys, I think it's 61 or 62, is the shadow. So it goes from shadow, gift to city. So the shadow is psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking around, I think collectively we are in a psychotic state, right? And psychosis, as it relates to gene keys, means more of looking outside of yourself for truth and answers, and to sort of continue to grasp at either science or religion or spirituality, and to spin out in it, right? Yeah. Just doing that, over consuming information,
right?
To feel, because essentially every shadow is about fear. So to feel safe and outside of fear, we get into this psychotic state of information, right? But the gift in the city is all about inner truth. It's all about learning how to quiet the mind, to stop, reaching outside of yourself for information, and to really come into yourself and allow the wisdom of yourself to guide you in the moment and to show you what your truth is.
Yeah.
And
do you know what the city of Psychosis is?
I should, because I think it's in a...
I think it might be my gene key too, 61.
I should, because it's one of my gene keys. It's my life. It's my life purpose. And I do think that QHHT is a great step, but even eventually, like collectively, we're moving to a state of embodiment, right? Like we have been consuming information, and we have a lot of knowledge. Knowledge and wisdom are two things. Knowledge, I can like spew out all the facts of this, and this. But when we have wisdom, when we have that inner truth, we have that energy of embodiment that we live from.
Yes.
And I feel like, so even with QHHT, it's a step. Even that's, I really think it's going to become irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because once we start embodying and connecting to our higher self, we don't even need that tool.
Well, actually,
right?
And even in Dolores' work, so the first book I read by her was called Between Death and Life, and it was right after the death of my son, and it really comforted me because she was able to hypnotize people beyond when they died. So, like, let's say she's hypnotized them, and they're talking about their life, the past life, and suddenly they died. So she's able to go, like, beyond where they were before, like the pre-life, or, wherever they go afterwards. And so that part was super, like, interesting to me. And then she said what started to happen, though, with even in her work, is that suddenly, instead of people going into past lives, it was like, and it was all new clients, so it wasn't like, oh, this person's progressed. As a collective, we started, like, less and less going into those old past lives and more going into, like, our starseed life, or where we actually, like you were saying with that client, where we really came from and what we're here to do. And, like, so the information started to change collectively, and that's what I find so fascinating. Like, where we go one, we go all, basically, right?
Yeah.
Like, that whole, like, as I change the world, the people, we're all, like, kind of, our minds all connect. Yeah, and we are all, in a way, a hive mind, whether we know it or not. And that's why it's important not to judge anybody, even though it sometimes feels super easy to want to.
Yeah.
Because that's just part of the process of where people are at, and as they're coming into a higher part of themselves.
Yeah, when you're really embodying the energy of unity, let's say, or love, right? Like, you're not necessarily telling people what unity or love is. You are holding this field of energy that has a certain light frequency, that has a certain vibration, that has a certain sound. And that, when you actually hold that truth within you, and you know it, and you can feel love, you can feel unity, that has such a bigger, more profound impact on the energetic fields of every person that you encounter.
Yes.
Because you can, like, even people who are not aware of that stuff, they can sense it, they can feel it, they just know, like, oh wow, there's something different about that person that I'm drawn to, that I'm like, oh, I feel good around this person, I feel safe.
Yeah, and we all do that. We know, like, even children, you can tell when they're like, not so sure about that person, or dogs, like they always say. Like, whether someone, like, how they're running their energy, basically. Yeah. And I always feel like that, too. I really am trying to stay, I don't want to say trying, because I am choosing to stay in my center with all that's going on right now on the political scale and just everything out there. And I know that I just want to just be this beacon. And not that I'm like, I want to be a beacon of light so other people, like, will, just more for myself. Like, I'm part of what I learned through the hypnosis was that I'm here to help humanity, but not by my words so much as by my beacon. Like, I'm just imagining myself as a lighthouse. But I'm a violet flame lighthouse.
Yeah.
I'm a purple lighthouse. And so that's just my work. And it has nothing to do with anybody else, but it has everything to do with anybody else. Yeah. Because we're all in this together. Yeah. So it's just so interesting. But basically what happened when you put me in hypnosis is, so you had me So part of the hypnotherapy is that you come down from a cloud, like I'm in hypnosis, like I've kind of gone under into that somnambulant state. I hope I'm saying that right. Somnambulant.
But that's okay.
And then you like come down from the cloud, and what's the first thing you see? And you have us look at our feet. So the first thing I saw was sandals on my feet, but they looked more like kind of like they were regular feet, but they had like, it was gold sandals that were kind of like strapped around my calves. And it was more like an angelic, almost like I would imagine what Archangel Michael would be wearing. And then you're like, all right, well, what clothing are you wearing? And I was kind of like a androgynous. And I was wearing like a gold skirt and a breastplate, but it wasn't like a to go to war breastplate. It was more just like an outfit. And it was all very much gold. And then you're like, well, okay, where are you? And I went into a village. And so I was above on a cliff looking down into a village. And you're like, let's go down into the village and see what's going on there. And it kind of was like, it must have been in the right when Westerners were coming to America, when the Europeans, when it was still all the Native American tribes, because I'm at the door of the chief's teepee, and he comes out and he knew me, even though like I was an ET basically, in my light body, but kind of had embodied a human form. So that he could relate to it, and he basically, I was sharing with him information about other tribes and also the Europeans, and like trying to kind of help that tribe stay safe and warn them in some ways of like how to navigate what was actually about to start happening, which we know how we just decimated the Native American tribes. And then you asked me, okay, well, what is your purpose here? And I said, well, I've been coming to the planet Earth for hundreds of years to help humanity, and I'm from the planet Andromeda. And I had never thought about the planet Andromeda before. I'd heard of it, and I was like, yeah, that's one of the planets. And I always thought, like, maybe if I was a starseed, I was from Pleiades, or possibly, actually more than Pleiadian, I felt like I was, what's the other one that everybody talks about? I don't even remember. I'll remember it in a minute.
Not Orion.
No, it's
Sirius.
No, it's the ones that they come from the future to talk to us a lot. Anyway, but anyway, I was an Andromedan, and then I see myself at some point. This is maybe a little bit later. I mean, this was an hour, so I'm not going to go into everything. But I see myself, and I have this crystal shooting out my third eye, and my body is more like blue, and I've got a big head. And like one of a smaller body, and I'm very like androgynous looking. I don't really have sexual organs. And I have this blue crystal, just not blue, but it was like a purple white crystal just spewing out my third eye. And you had your eyes closed at the time, and later you told me you saw the exact same thing. But I wasn't even telling you that in the moment. I told you afterwards what I saw. And so to me, the point of that hypnosis was for me to like understand why I've come to Earth. And you're like, well, why did Elena come to this body, in the Earth form? If you've always been this, helping us from another realm, like why are you in this realm now, in this 3D realm now? And I said, I just wanted to have this experience and feel like what it felt like to be a human, and knowing what was about to emerge on this planet as we are in the age of Aquarius and awakening. That I'm here to also hold that light space from a human form, and just to help others from my heart. I call it heart portal, because it's just like that's it. That's it. And I don't even know like exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, but I know I'm not supposed to be out there freaking out on either side. And I just keep bringing it back to center, bringing it back to center, bringing it back to the heart, singing, trying to be as open-hearted as I can, and holding, like I do something called the Violet Flamework, which was really, it was funny because I've been doing that work for over 10 years, and it was like really confirming to me, because Violet Flame is all about Saint Germain, the Ascended Masters, the Archangels like Michael and Zadkiel, and Jesus, and just all of those beings, and like just working, that they're here always working with us. And I feel like there's some kind of like, we're all in this together. We're just doing this work to keep light on the planet and helping people as they start to wake up, just as you do. But I'm just doing it more from like a subtle place, I guess, for now, until something changes.
I wouldn't say what you're doing is subtle at all. I think that's a very humble view. I mean, I think anyone that gets to be around you can feel that deep, joyful, loving presence that you just carry. And I think you really like love people in a very like genuine, sweet way, and you really care. You want to help, and you want everyone to thrive. And I feel that. Like, I don't think I think you are killing it. I think.
Awesome. And I love that you always remind me of that. You're like, do you know how amazing you are?
Yeah.
And like, we need people like that in our lives. Because it's so easy, and Caitlin, my business partner, always talks to me about, like, you're so hard on yourself. It's so easy to get down on ourselves as humans that we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even know what perfect is, actually.
Right.
Because there's no such thing.
Well, some human version of perfect that you've been taught is perfect. But you inspire me all the time. Not too many, honestly, maybe I shouldn't say it. Not too many people really inspire me. And you inspire me all the time to be better and to be cleaner.
The cold plunge.
More joyful.
I'm always sending you videos. When I go to the cold plunge, I send her a video, and I'm like, look, I'm in the cold plunge. It's your turn next. Yeah. And then you got a cold plunge.
Yeah. So you're inspiring me in many ways. So
yeah.
And what I love about your story is, like you said, you didn't really know about the Andromedans, what they look like. You didn't know much about them, and then you did a bunch of research after. And it completely verified everything you experienced, you knew, and even looked like and saw.
I know, because I looked up a picture, like, what do Andromedans look like? And I'm like, Shanti! And I sent her the picture. Like, it looked exactly like what we both saw in the vision.
Yeah.
You're like, I saw that too!
Yeah.
So it was just, and whether other people want to believe it or not doesn't matter, because I believe it, and I know it's my truth.
Yeah.
And also the one word that they gave me, because you said, as you're bringing me out, at the end, you say, what do you need to tell yourself? Like, what do you need to know? And I said, use the word switch on. Mm-hmm. So when I want her, I call it a her, my Andromeda self is like over, 12 feet tall, however tall she is. And she's always now like with me. And if I'm meditating or if I just need her, I just say, switch on. Yeah. It's like my keyword, like you need a code word. Mm-hmm. And so that was the word I gave myself. And now I use it a lot just with, or if I hear someone say the word switch on, I suddenly am like, I'm switched on, so I think it's a perfect keyword because, like, if someone is switched on, like, it means that they're awake, they're aware, they're moving through life purposefully. Yeah. And I'm like, what are perfect words that I gave myself? Yeah. And I gave them to myself. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, Shanti's going to say those words and I'm going to go into hypnosis. Right. Like, it's not like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you've mentioned a couple times that I've been able to see. So I do have a level of clairvoyance that I'm able to use in these sessions, and that's a way that I'm able to sort of discern if what's being said or coming through is just this imaginative place versus like this real information coming through. Yeah. And I do sometimes get people that come in that are not really ready for the information, and so they're not really getting
they're just circumnavigating.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't see much with those people, but when something like truth comes in, when something like your situation, I can actually see what you're seeing in the exact same time. And that's happened with many, many clients. And those are the clients, every time when that happens, they're the ones that have this like amazing experience because, they're so ready for it. And it's such a deep truth.
Yeah, well, and for me, it just verified to keep doing the work I'm doing. So I was like, all the stuff was just, and so, I really feel like I've changed in the last 6 months a lot. And I've become more pure in my meditation and in my path of what I'm really here to do. Like, I'm not getting distracted by things.
Yeah, you feel more confident.
Yeah.
Just that knowing place.
Not having to wonder, like, oh, am I supposed to be now going off and doing this, that, and the other? It's like, nope. Like, I did take the training after that, so I've taken the whole training. Yeah. But now I just need to get my 10 sessions under my belt.
How many have you done so far?
I've done one. So, actually, I have people lined up that want to do it.
I was about to say, you probably have.
It's a little bit of getting your confidence around it, though.
It is.
It's not super easy. I mean, it's something, you're so skilled at it.
Yeah. Well, I think with my therapy background, that helps.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that with practice, it's going to come really natural, and then you'll sort of like make it your own.
Yeah.
In a way, there's certain things that she suggests or does that might not be as effective for you that you'll.
Right. Yeah, and I get that. It's all you just take it all and you kind of decide what you're going to do with it. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. Yeah. The first one is, what brings you joy?
Gosh, nature. birds.
Yeah.
It's like if I am out and I hear birds singing, I literally just have to pause and just listen, and I just feel like the deepest smile within my body. My children, when they're not fighting, bring me so much joy. They really help me connect to my innocence and my own inner child. And then when I just like get to connect with people, I feel that sense of like joyfulness.
Yeah, like that heart connection.
That heart connection, that deeper connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of my absolute most favorite things too, is like the true connection with people, a true heart connection.
Yeah.
My windows are popping up in here. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I just wanted to say about children that I was thinking about it the other day, and you know, we get to re-experience innocence through our children's eyes, and it's just like people as they get older, and I've noticed this, they start to get like really like particular. When you have children, I think it just keeps you in that flow of like, oh my God, that flower and that little things that like, or just even asking a question that seems so innocent and sweet and pure.
Yeah.
Like, and they not even knowing about their own sexuality yet, and all the things that are to come. Like, children are just bring so much joy to the planet.
There's a gene key for this that I actually have. It's in my radiance, and it's chaos is the shadow, innovation is the gift, and the city. It's not city like CITY, it's SIDHI. Anyways, is innocence. And like listening to you talk, I think being around children is our most powerful way to heal that sort of inner aspect of our own inner child. But a lot of that is learning how to be with chaos.
Because there definitely is chaos sometimes when they're fighting or when there's just...
Oh my gosh.
It can be chaotic.
And kids are so in the moment that they are responding to their environment. So they're using their environment to create every moment. Yeah. And that leads to the innovation, right? Like being in the moment and being in their heart can be sort of like chaotic, but it allows this innovative, like something to come through.
And they change so quickly.
In
a moment, they're like, oh no, I'm having fun, I'm laughing.
Yeah. Next minute, I hate you. Like, this is horrible. And then when you're in that state, you can allow that innocence, and you can see, like being with children, you can see that, like that progression between it, and learning how to like hold that within yourself and be in relationship to that. It's such a gift.
I mean, I think that's one of the things, going back to the multi-generational thing of like now how we don't really have our elders living with us. It's so important for an elderly person to be with young children. It keeps them young. Because think about it, like people get so like, oh, it's too loud, like they just get so particular. And I can see it in myself living alone. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, too much noise, and like it just keeps you like flexible. So I love that.
Yes.
And is there something that has changed in your life to get you where you are now? Well, we kind of already talked about that, but anything else you want to say about that?
Something that's changed in my life. I mean, I think I can answer more as it relates to like here and now in this moment. I've been really digging into my personality. It's interesting because so there's this thing called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. And it's a test you can take to see how traumatized your childhood was.
Do you really want to know that?
So it's a 0 to 10, 10 being like
the
highly
most
traumatized.
Yeah.
And the more traumatized your life is, the more you're going to be like addicted to drugs, have chronic illnesses, not be able to like function.
Yeah.
And anyways, I'm a 10 on the scale. And what happens when you live in a highly traumatic childhood is that you don't really get to develop your personality, right? You're in constant fight and flight, and you're in constantly reacting to the world in order to make yourself safe.
Yeah.
So you don't have like the time or the space, and you don't have anyone nurturing like me. I didn't have someone nurturing me to help me like learn about myself. Anyways, and so as I told you, after I had children, I went on this healing journey, and then in the past 10 years, I've been really like trying to understand like who am I, what am I here for, right? And recently I've dove back into like a lot of personality tests and to sort of really learn about my personality. And lately it's been one of the most healing things I've been doing because first of all, it's validated parts of myself that I thought were negative And it helped me to see them. It helped me like to change my perspective and see them in a more positive way. And it also opened my eyes to my strengths that I've seen, but
you took it for granted.
Took it for granted. Didn't really realize like, whoa, that is a strength. Yes. So lately this has been a huge thing in my development and growth that's helped me to settle more deeply within myself and to feel more confident within myself. So it's been really fun and interesting.
You know what I love about that? And I feel like we could take an hour just on this one topic.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to hear this because I know, like, Caitlin's saying to me, you're too hard on yourself. And I realize sometimes I am. And it's like, what if those weaknesses were really strengths? Yeah. What if those things that I thought I was like, why are you such a bitch sometimes? Or why do you do X, Y, Z? Like, is a strength in some way that we don't even realize.
Yeah.
And I was just listening to Alan Watts talk about the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and how we sometimes think, oh, I'm going to be altruistic and do this, that, and the other. And like, how do we know if that's the best thing for that person in that moment? Yeah. So Byron Katie says, it's loving what is. Like, whatever's happening in the moment, I must be meant to be doing this. And how can I love this part of myself? And how can I find, if the world is a good place, how is this a good thing? Yeah. So I love that you said that, because I feel like that's going to heal the planet more than anything else, is when we heal that part of ourselves.
Yeah, and the negative things that we do, or the things that
we think are negative.
Negative, or that other people don't really appreciate
annoying.
Or don't like. Yeah. A lot of that is rooted in fear and unmet need, right? And so those negative things, if you think of it on a spectrum, they actually, if you're able to move through the fear and move through whatever need that you're needing, that you're trying to get outside of yourself, that maybe you can get within yourself, it takes you to these higher states of being and consciousness, of love and connection and joy, or whatever, And so I actually don't see what you're talking about, these negative things, as a bad thing. I think it's just a good way to sort of like become aware of, oh, I'm scared.
Like, why am I acting this way?
Yeah.
What am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just go into curiosity and inquiry.
Yes.
Which is the name of the radio show.
Oh, is it?
Yours.
Oh, mine is Curiosity Love.
Yeah, she has a radio show locally in Bend.
Yeah.
KPOV.
Yeah, just community radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
curiosity.
Be curious.
Yeah,
not
I think it's
thinking
so
you know or don't know or judging.
I mean, I think it's so important to be curious about ourselves. And it allows us to be more curious about others. Yeah. I mean, we're in such a time of divisiveness right now. And I've been thinking about this because sometimes I can spin out in fear. Yeah. And I was able recently just to get to a place of neutrality. Like, I don't have the answers. I don't know. I'm scared. But what I do know is, like, in this moment right now, I'm safe. I'm okay. I feel good. And it allowed me to come. It's all there is. I came really neutral and very expansive. And then what that allowed, that in that expansiveness, it allowed more curiosity, which also allows more connection, and it allows more joy.
On both sides. Like, you can connect to people that you wouldn't necessarily be doing that same action, but you can connect more from that place when you're feeling good in yourself and not in fear. I don't have any opinion about what other people are doing in the world because I feel okay.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, because really, we don't know another person's truth or needs or fears. And we can sort of project out our own, what we think and what we believe onto that person.
Right.
But when we do that, we're not seeing the person. We're seeing our own fears, our own limitations, right? And I think, for me personally, I want friends from all different walks of life, all spectrums. I mean, I still hang out with very political people on either side, and all belief systems, religious. I have very, very religious friends, and friends who are atheists, like on
all of
the spectrums. And I'm just so curious about what they think, how they feel, how they perceive life. And I want to know them. And
it's perfect for you because you have like a psychology background.
Yeah.
And of course, you wouldn't be in this profession if you weren't curious about people.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. So everything's a social experiment.
Yes.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And let's see. Is there anything you're geeking out on lately?
Well, I mentioned Gene Keys. That's something I'm really, really geeking out on lately. I also cold plunging.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Katie Curtis, and Elena are two people in my life that really have helped me find joy in being uncomfortable with coldness. And so I love sharing that with both of you, and you guys have really inspired me in that way. What else am I geeking out? I'm geeking also out on just like personality stuff. I'm really like diving deep on the Myers-Briggs.
You had me looking that up.
I had you, and just all these Gene Keys system, astrology, and
Just sounds like self-examination.
Self-examination.
Getting more clear on personality stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, I know our hour's kind of coming up to an end. So what's the best way for people to get hold of you, to find you if they want to do a session with you?
Yeah. So I have a website called Rooted and Open. Rooted like
in the
tree
ground.
roots.
Yeah.
And it's the symbol and open.com. You can find me there.
Symbol on a website?
Oh, actually, it's A&D. It is. Thank you. It's the symbol in other ways.
Okay.
But,
so Rooted and Open, all spelled out.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So you can find me there, and then you can send me an email. Rooted and Open A&D Open @gmail. Okay. Or you can reach out to me.
Yeah, reach out to me, and I'll put everything will be in the show notes, all your links.
Yeah.
So anything else here's one thing.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask people. What's one thing people can do today? Like if they want to hey, I just want to change something about myself today, or make a step in that direction, anything you could recommend?
Oh, wow. My best advice is go outside, put your feet on the ground, really tune in to your environment, tune into the sounds, tune into the feeling of the breeze on your body, on your face. Feel the warmth of the sun, right? Just allow yourself each day at least a minute or two of full presence of being fully in your body and really, really tuning in to your environments. Hopefully that environment's outside of nature. And I find that when I do that, the more and more I do that, it gives me a break from my mind.
Yeah.
Be
quiet!
And it allows me just to settle more deeply into my body. And what I love about it's so simple.
Yeah.
And it seems whatever, but the more and more that I do this and practice this, the less fear I have, the more joy I have, and the more that I just feel good in my body. And so
it's Mama Gaia. You're talking about not being parented and nurtured. What better mother than to go out and stand on her breast and get her sunlight and get, this hug from the earth. That is the best way to be mothered, if you ask me.
And to use all of our senses to connect and tune in. It's really powerful.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing too.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
And everybody can do it. Even if you live in the city, tune into the city. Don't resist.
Yeah.
Really tune into what's present in that
cars
moment.
Honking, whatever.
Yeah. Smog.
Yeah.
Dogs barking.
You're
kids
alive.
Crying.
You're having an experience.
Alive. Yes.
Yay. Oh, this has been so great. Thank you so much for joining me. I just feel we talk all the time. But we'll do this again. And I just want to thank all of you guys for watching or for listening. And remember to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, so you'll get future videos. And if you're listening to this on any of the podcast portals, to go in and give a rating and review. And giving me 5 stars would be an awesome gift, but whatever you feel, and that'll help more people be able to find this. So thank you. And it's sponsored by purejoyplanet.com. If you want to support me, you can go there and shop. Sign up for some of our amazing courses. We have a free 1-day juicing course coming up, a free guided liver cleanse coming up in February. So lots of stuff happening. Just check out the website, purejoyplanet.com. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Stop.